Okay, we're going to draw some more things in 1 point perspective. But what I want to talk to you about is different shapes. Okay? We've talked about cubes all of this time. Are there any other shapes that you can draw in 1 point perspective other than a cube type surface, right? So you've got your vanishing point in the middle, and you know how to draw a cube in 1 point perspective. You know, you start with a square or rectangle, okay? And then going back to your vanishing point, you draw your receding lines. And then you draw the sides and the bottom of your shape, okay? So there is a three-dimensional cube drawn in 1 point perspective. What about other shapes? What other things can we draw in 1 point perspective? What about a circle? That's my free-handed circle. It's got a little bump in it. You could trace a cap or something. You could take the sides of your shape, okay, and go from the very outer edges of the shape, going back into space. So here, when we drew the cube, you have a side and a bottom, and you mimic it, or you repeat that same edge. So here's the edge of this cube, and I'm repeating the edge. Here the edge is a curve, so I would slide down and I'd have to freehand repeat it. Okay, so now it becomes a cylinder instead of a circle like a Batman symbol. Okay, so there's another thing that I could do. What about a heart shape? Okay, got a heart shape, and I'm going to draw that back in space. This isn't required of you to draw different shapes. I'm just talking to you. Another one, and let's go to the middle. And then, oh my gosh, look, I've got this bump and this bump. So I would repeat the two bumps. Bump, bump. And now I have a heart coming out of here. You could do it with any shape. You could do stars. You could do C shapes. You could do zigzags. You could do curves. Okay? Same thing. Let's give it some form or shape. It's still a flat shape. Okay, I don't know what I call that, a wave. Going back in space to the dots. 1, 2, and then this curve, the best I can do is draw the same exact curve. Okay? So yeah, you can do it with any shape. You can do a blob. Nice blob. Going back in space, and you repeat the blob. Why does this heart have this line here? That helps us see the curve of this heart, the way it curves in. I don't know if that line is necessary. I mean, you could erase it, and I think you'd still get the same point across, kind of like our curve here. It just depends. Stars get tricky. You know, there are all different shapes that you could draw going back in space. So with that said, let's try another type of a form, okay? So let's try doing something cylinder shaped, like a Crayola marker. Or you could do a pencil, a number 2 pencil. Here's a number 2 pencil with a 2 on the end and the little metal furlue holding the eraser on. You've got the wood and the point. If you drew a Crayola marker, it would, let me take the cap off, okay? You could draw it in perspective, and you'd have these little wavy lines, the Crayola symbol, more wavy lines, and they get smaller, 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 right? Same thing. So on a piece of paper, let's draw ourselves, you're used to doing it, an eye level line, okay? And let's put a vanishing point on it. So let's do, I don't know, let's do the pencil. So down at the bottom here, I'm going to draw myself a circle, okay? That circle is going to be representational of the pink eraser, like if it is staring at you. And it's a brand new eraser it has never been erased with, okay? This eraser's dirty, so it's not really flat anymore. Then going back in space to our vanishing point, and the very edges of that shape, as far out as I can go, okay, I draw to my vanishing point. Now I'm going to take this curve and I'm going to repeat it. So now that's my pink eraser, right? There's my little pink eraser on my pencil. Now I'm going to draw another little curve. I have to freehand this. That's the metal ring. And when I look at my metal ring on my pencil, okay, I've got my pink eraser and I've got my metal ring, and my metal ring has a bunch of lines, some crimp marks, and some zigzags in it. So I've got some curves. Okay, I've got some lines like this, and I've got some little crimp holes to make this look like a pencil, the little metal furlue on the pencil. Okay, as this pencil tips upward, I see less and less of the silver, and that's kind of the point that we're making here. I can see more of the tip of the eraser and less of the metal ring. Okay, so as it lays flat again, it looks longer, and as I tip it back, that silver kind of goes away. All right, so now as I move down the pencil here, this, where it sharpens, it's got like a little zigzag to it, right? That little zigzag. So I'm going to draw myself a little wavy zigzag where it erases. Okay, so this is all yellow pencil. This is wood. And now I've got the tip of my pencil, like my pencil drew the dot, more or less. Now my pencil here has some fancy things on it. It has a 2. It says School Smart on it with the little trademark symbol, okay, a registered trademark. So let's do a little bit more. Let's add some lines to keep this pencil from rolling. And then let's add the number 2 here. I don't know about you, but there's no way I can turn this and draw a 2. I'm going to draw myself my number 2. And I could put it in the oval and get all fancy. Okay? Turn it back so that it looks correct to you. Okay, so there. I drew a number 2 pencil. What about a Crayola marker? I could do a Crayola marker, right? Same thing? Same thing. I would start with a circle. Okay? I would go back to my vanishing point. 2 very outer edges, okay? This time the cap is longer, so I would draw myself a longer cap. I don't have an eraser. I don't have a metal furlue on it. Then as I go farther down, I have a little area here with the zigzag in it. Okay? Should go in there and clean that up neater. Then as I go down, I have a little curved area here where it says Crayola. Okay. Then as I go down some more, I've got another little curved area. And then it kind of gets smaller. And it goes smaller again and smaller again. So from here, I need to take my ruler and make myself a smaller little area where the marker gets tinier before it comes into a tip. Okay? And so now I've drawn myself a little, looks like a little pipsqueak, a shortened version of my Crayola marker. And I can get fancy with it, and I can actually pick up the marker and do some detail work with it. I drew it way too small for the camera, but I think you get the point. Okay, then this would all be colored as well. I can see down into my little cylinder here. So same thing, and I can get fancy with this. And I could write the word Crayola and go around it, but for the sake of television and boredom. Okay, this gets darker inside. Maybe if I had a darker drawing pencil, I could have made that appear darker. It's not really showing up on the camera for you. As you go down into the marker, it gets really dark down in there. Okay, so those are some things that you can try. Maybe you could try doing a Sharpie. Okay, that gets into some fancy lettering, but if you take the cap off of it, right, you still get where it gets smaller, smaller, smaller going to the point. I'd like you to challenge yourself and try to do something like that. Here is a pencil that I did a long time ago. It looks like a giant pencil going back in space. I outlined it in Sharpie. So there's another number 2 pencil that you could do. So for this next assignment, I would like you to draw a pencil or a marker or a crayon or something like that and make it look as if it is pointing back in space, back to the vanishing point. Take a picture of it and upload it to Schoology.